I don't know. I have no idea, but I want to hear what you guys got to say. The discussion, the chatter behind the curtain is today on Friday, May 30th, is not about 5+11. It's not about 442213. It's not about a cheeseburger. It's about what exactly is going on between the Big 12 and the ACC. What exactly is going on? I don't have the answer for you, but I'm going to give you a peek on what this chatter is all about. People are scrambling to try to find out about this clandestine call that happened this month. We were doing a live show yesterday. And during the live show, there was breaking news. Brett Yormark, the Big 12, the board of directors, and we'll go through a little bit of the article again just to set the table later in the monologue. But basically the reporting was front office sports. Great interview, by the way. Basically it was the Big 12 looked at it, looked at private equity. Now they know. They've got some expertise on it now. They were taught some stuff, but they have elected to hit the pause button. It's not the right time. There's a lot of things going on right now, no question about it. There was also a mention of something like there's a lot of reasons. I'm paraphrasing. We will go through the article real quick so you can get the exact wordage. But something to the effect of, there's a lot of reasons why we are hitting the pause button. I guess my question is, and it's the chatter behind the curtains question. So this, now a lot of you are, oh geez, the fat guy from Minnesota's cheese has slipped off his cracker once again. That might be true. But I'm not the only one talking about this today. There is a chatter behind the curtain. People's antennas have gone up on this. Is the reason why Brett Yormark hit the pause button, could one of those reasons be that the Big 12, as a joint exercise with the ACC, are in more than just preliminary discussions with Smash Capital? Now remember, Smash Capital is a believer in the Super League. They're willing to put billions and billions of dollars, I think it was $9 billion, in the Super League that involved a whole lot of Big Ten, SEC, everybody. According to Ross Dillinger's report, and we're going to go through that particular part of the article. Again, I want you to read the exact words that I am reading. It's the second meeting since December, and it happened in this month. This was a meeting with Smash Capital. So this could be the beginning or the middle, the start of the beginning, the end of the beginning, the start of the middle, the end of the middle, the start of the end, beginning of the end, the middle of the end. This could be possibly the creation of a mini Super League. It could be that. I do not know if it's that. If it's that, it's a wild and big, massive story. But if it is not that, now, again, no matter what this was that happened this month, again, with several Big 12 schools and several ACC schools, there's a really good chance this will never get off the mat. I think we all can agree with that. So let's describe it in this following manner. What was the attempt? The continued attempt. What are they trying to achieve? The several Big 12 schools, the several ACC schools, and Smash Capital. What are they trying to achieve? Now, maybe I'm wrong. This is all speculation here. Because I had to tell you, the chatter behind the curtain are speculating, they're scrambling, they're trying to figure this out. I got to tell you though, I'm gonna speculate along with you guys, if that's okay. I cannot imagine for the life of me that the Big 12 and the ACC, or some of the Big 12 and some of the ACC, whatever the combination thereof, is having a meeting with Smash Capital and is thinking about the possibility of creating a Super League with the Big 10 and the SEC. In other words, at this late date, in May of 2025, I think it's safe to assume that the Big 12 and the ACC would acknowledge to themselves and internally, if a Super League is created, it ain't happening with the Big 10 and the SEC. So, this clandestine phone call, this meeting with several ACC and several Big 12 schools, without the commissioners, with Smash Capital, it has to be, in my opinion, now if you can come up with a third option, let me know in the chat room, let me know with the phone call. But it has to be, in my opinion, and the chatter behind the curtain, it has to be about an attempt to make sure they run out that ground ball, to make sure that they don't leave anything unsaid, unresolved, look at every option in creating some type of Super League involving the Big 12 and the ACC together. In my opinion, and the chatter behind the curtain, that is an option, is a possibility. Or there is some, if it ain't that, what's behind door number 2, I think is even crazier. What's behind door number... Now, door number 1 might be far-fetched. You might be thinking, Greg, there's no chance of it happening, and you may be right. This creation of the Super League, bring in the $1 billion, the ACC and the Big 12, they form some sort of Super League together. And they remain, playing the Big 10 and the SEC, but they form some sort of, it doesn't have to be a merger, but some sort of association to create some wealth between the two entities. That's door number 1. Door number 2 is there is some massive, radical, internal conference, Cloak and Dagger going on. To a level that would make Sankey, Petiti, Warren, Salford, when it comes to the Big East, that would make them blush. For example, the Magnificent Seven schools coming together and saying once again, yeah, I mean, this unequal revenue sharing, okay, that's great for some of us, not all of us. But for some of us, we're going to still fall further and further behind. And even with the unequal revenue sharing, we can't last to 2036. The Big Ten has no interest. The SEC might have a little interest in us. I'm putting out an option. And therefore, we must create the greatest value we can out of a new conference. And that is going to take probably a benefactor. Somebody that can grease the skids for us. Somebody that can help us and that is like a smash capital. And then we are going to leave this conference, build this conference a little bit bigger with interested in big brands, the ones that we believe that would help us in the Big 12. That is a crazy scenario. Improbable. Absolutely improbable. But again, we're going to go through the reporting once again, and Ross Dellinger chooses his words carefully. Clandestine. Clandestine means to keep it undercover, to keep it a secret. The question that you have to ask yourself, the question that the chatter behind the curtain is asking today, May 30th, who were they keeping that secret from? Were they keeping the secret from this clandestine call with Smash Capital? Were they keeping that from the world at large? Were they keeping that from the Big Ten and the SEC? Were they keeping that this possible unification of the Big 12 and the ACC? Were they keeping this, trying to keep this under wraps from the Big Ten and the SEC? A further attempt to look at every possibility and maybe create some sort of mini Super League? Or was the clandestine call, the reason why Ross Dellinger used the word clandestine, was the secret from, were they keeping the schools that went to this call, were they keeping the secret from other schools within their conference? I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds absolutely lunatic. I'm guilty of both, sounding like a lunatic on both options. But this happened. It happened this month. And you know how Ross Dellinger works. He puts something out there. It goes through his editor. They make sure they choose the word carefully. And then he comes back to it. He will come back to that article a month from now, 2 months from now. He's going to repost it and say, oh, this is the breaking news of today. And look, we talked about this a couple months ago. I know this sounds lunacy. But let me add this. Let me just put this out there. Again, This is why we are the most unpopular college football YouTube channel in the country. Remember, I mean, you talk about radical? You want to talk about radical? You want to talk about radical? Let's talk about radical. And by the way, we're going to get back to this in our monologue. We're just setting the table here. You want to talk about radical? You think that is radical? That idea that there is big time cloak and dagger going on right now? What about Florida State and Clemson going into the courts and challenging the ACC? That was radical. That was gutsy. That was desperation. And by the way, they won massive victories. What about the Magnificent Seven? Even conspiring to bring it up among subgroups that they might have to do something crazy here. They might have to do a dissolution. They have to do something. Meeting in subgroups without telling the other schools, that's radical. You want to talk about radical? What about the unequal revenue share that's going on in the ACC? I get it. I mean, if I was an ACC school, if I was a fan of an ACC school or a Big 12 school, I'd be raising my fist to the SEC and the Big 10 saying, how dare you? How dare you try to encompass more power and more money into your greedy little arms? But that's what's happening in the ACC. Just in the unequal revenue sharing. You want to talk about radical? You want to talk about radical? Radakovich radical. Radakovich radical. The athletic director of Miami bringing up the possibility in the open, in a report, in an article, yeah, maybe we should split our divisions. Maybe we should go to divisions, back to divisions, and have brand division and no brand division. Just to make sure the top schools in the ACC don't slip any further behind the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, there's so much radical stuff going on. I think we've been desensitized to it to a certain point. So again, as crazy as it sounds, as radical as it sounds, is it happening? Is that clandestine phone call that happened earlier this month in a Ross Dellinger report on May 26th, does that involve keeping a secret away from certain schools in the Big 12 and certain schools from the ACC, or is that about keeping the secret from the Big 10 and the SEC? You let me know what you think. You let me know what you think it is. Or is there a third option? I'm going to give you my opinion. At this point, I don't even have an opinion on it. I have talked to quite a few people here. I've been on the phone today. I have talked to 4 different people who run college football YouTube channels. I have talked to a certain chatter behind the curtain level of individuals. I have talked to the money purchasers. I have talked and talked and talked. Since that article came out last night and I got a certain phone call this morning, this is what the chatter behind the curtain are talking about today. They have left the college football playoff model discussion, but now they're wondering what is going on here. What is going on? Brett Yormark, the Big 12, just hit the pause button. In my eyes, they did not completely reject the notion of private equity coming on in. Maybe they will eventually say no to it all. But that's not what really happened. If you read Brett Yormark's words carefully. Is he involved by the presidential orders of the Big 12? Is he involved with this joint venture with the ACC to make sure that maybe there's a possibility of a mini Super League structure? Now, if he was involved, if he is being directed by the Big 12 presidents, then the next question is, why wasn't he at that Monday morning meeting? Not Monday morning, the May meeting, early in May. I just gave something away. Anyways, by the way, what are these crowns doing here? These crowns are back again. Holy smokes. Greg Disney Adventures is in first. Expedition Greg Stormy Cyclone in Jock's Boxleitner. Is this what's going on in all the chat rooms? Or is YouTube just, are we like an experiment here? What is going on? What is happening? Okay, let me go to some super chats real quick here, or at least a membership. Excuse me, a membership. Expedition Greg, thank you so much for the gifted membership. Holy smokes! Let me see if I can find out who got it. Mike W. Mike W. When you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Expedition Greg. Please say thank you to his generosity. Both of you are knighted. Both of you are knighted. Cloak and Dagger. And it's a Cloak and Dagger type of day. Go enjoy our library of episodes. You can watch them all as a member of Early Peak Cloak and Dagger. Thank you, Expedition Greg. Appreciate it so very much. And then we've got ourselves a super chat. Helmer Hennison, get a veggie burger with cheese. That sounds like a good idea, except I can't do that either. First of all, that would be unethical. That would be unethical. Second of all, I can't eat that stuff. So if I'm going to die either way, veggie burger or a true hamburger with cheese, I'm going to die the ethical manner. Okay? But I appreciate the creativity, me trying to do an end run around the rules. I appreciate that, Helmer Hennison. Thank you so much for the super chat, for helping us keep the lights on. Thank you so very much. Two masters in the house. Vox Quindaro Jose, MBM the Architect. Friends call me Sean. Sendevil Antoine Johnson. Two Master Expedition Greg John Boxleitner. RT is in the house. Florida Man is here. Steel Austin is here. Daniel Gygax. Yeah, I'm still wondering how it will work with the media partners, especially with the Big 12 Gore. Now, Daniel, are you talking about behind door number 1 or behind door number 2? Numbskull News predicted this mini Super League earlier this week. G. Brew, a Numbskull News is on it. Now, I'm not predicting it, of course. We're just talking here. Ross Dellinger, we'll look at it again, but he put that in his article for a reason. And there's some parts of it, in my opinion, there's some part of that paragraph that makes you lean one way, and there's some parts of it that makes you lean the other way. So we'll get into it. Trench Grinch is in the house. The Trench Grinch, Rod Nix, is here. Nix thinks it's a little bit of both. I don't know how it could be a little bit of both, because if it's about the mini Super League, everyone's got to be involved in the discussions. If it's about Cloak and Dagger, if it's about a new Power 3 conference, a creation of a new conference. So it really can't be about, it's got to be, that meeting has to be one or the other. An attempt to look at the possibilities of one or the other. They both sound radical. But I just gave a list of a bunch of radical things that has already been attempted. I mean, shoot, we can go all the way back to June 30th, 2022, when the reports came out that UCLA and USC was joining the Big Ten. We can go back to Brian Murphy, WRAL, who did a FOIA request and saw that North Carolina, the leadership, Kevin Gusowich and Bubba Cunningham, we're talking about basically ACC reconstruction, a reimagining of the ACC. They were talking about this radical stuff right away after the USC-UCLA left. I don't know which door it is, though. Either way, it's radical. The chance of it actually happening, I don't know how big it is. Probably pretty small. But there is an attempt here to do something radical, and the phone call was early this month. The architect says it would be smart for the top brands in the ACC and the Big 12 to link up. I did not say that. I did not say that. Greg, could the deal be on pause due to the Smash Capital acquisition of Paramount Plus? The new media enterprise would have estimated value of $28 billion with some 77 million subscribers. It could be. That doesn't answer the question of the Smash. Hold on here. I'm calling a timeout. I know we're live. We're calling a timeout. The acquisition of Paramount Plus is part of a larger merger between Paramount Global and Skydance Media. Skydance Media is backed by Oracle founder Larry Ellison. Skydance is an asset that Red Bird Capital owns. So, I don't know. It gets all types of confusion there. I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but it could be. Big recruiting weekend for LSU and a lot of teams, man. A lot of programs got some. This weekend is really important. Cloak and Dagger is the new conference name. Okay, let's get into it, guys. I appreciate you all coming on in. Let's get into the monologue so we can get to your phone calls as quick as possible. Once again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you like our content, please smash the like button. If you subscribe to our channel, make sure you turn on those notifications because we can come on live at any time. If we get done with this live show and we get the breaking news that Judge Wilkin has ruled from the bench on the House NCAA settlement, we'll come on live again. So you got to make sure you subscribe and have those notifications turned on. And if you lay down a super chat, thank you so very much. I will get to them as quick as I possibly can. Thank you for all your support. Let's get to it right now. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit of football. We're going to talk a little bit of football before we get back into this mini Super League or some crazy Cloak and Dagger. It's one or the other, unless you all can come up with the third option. That third option has not been presented to me, and I've talked to a lot of people today. So it's either one or the other. Two crazy ideas being attempted, one or the other. And I don't think both of them are being attempted. One or the other. We'll get back to that. But first, we got to talk about Conference USA. Early in the week, we used Bill Conley's article, Numbers, Metrics, to talk about the MAC Conference, the Mid-American Conference, where it showed that the Toledo Rockets, the Buffalo Bulls are the favorites, along with Miami of Ohio. But I think it's really down to Toledo or Buffalo when it comes to all the metrics that you use before the season starts. What does Bill Conley's numbers mean when it comes to the Conference USA? Now, we know that Liberty Flames underperformed last year. And Jacksonville State, led by Rich Rodriguez, won the conference. What's going to happen this year? Rich Rod is at West Virginia. There's been a lot of changes in Conference USA. It's good to have a purpose in life. Conference USA's purpose is to serve as the official FBS welcome mat. With the additions of Delaware and Missouri State, there are now 136 teams in FBS. Conference USA has at one point or another have housed nearly a quarter of them. Of the 10 programs to move up from FCS since 2018, 8 have joined CUSA, Conference USA, upon their arrival. Conference realignment hasn't been incredibly kind to this league of late, with 3 schools leaving for the AAC in 2014, 3 going to the Sun Belt in 2022, 6 heading for the AAC in 2023. UTEP departs from Mountain West next year. But serving as the Ellis Island of the FBS assures the conference of both an identity and, well, quantity. 2 of these relative FBS newcomers have won the league the past 2 years. Liberty took the title 2 years ago, and Jacksonville State did the deed in just its second year aboard. Sam Houston, another second-year program, went 10-3 last year. So the newcomers are dominating Conference USA. On paper, the Liberty Flames appears pretty likely to take the mantle back in 25. But no one saw Jacksonville State coming a year ago. Might we have another surprise in store? Let's preview Conference USA. Now, this is the returning production. Continuity index ratings of these programs. Kennesaw State, Delaware, Missouri State. Now, remember, Delaware and Missouri State were not playing FBS football last year. So who knows what those numbers really mean. Middle Tennessee, Liberty, UTEP, New Mexico State. Jacksonville State is at the bottom. They lose Rich Rod. They win the conference title, but they lost a whole bunch going into 2025. Kennesaw State replaced coach Brian Bonan and Jerry Mack after his first FBS season. Mack managed to keep a solid amount of the Owls too deep intact while importing a healthy amount of experience from the transfer portal. Meanwhile, of the 136 FBS teams, Jacksonville State returns the second lowest amount of production. In Western Kentucky and Sam Houston failed to hit 40% mark in this regard. These were the top three teams in last year's standings. That gives you a pretty good idea why Liberty seems poised to rebound. These are the Bill Connelly's 2025 projections. Liberty on top. There are only two teams in the top 100. Bill Connelly's projections. In the Mid-American, there were 4 teams rated higher than 100. Buffalo, Miami of Ohio, Toledo, and Ohio. Miami of Ohio, Toledo, and Buffalo. There were 4 of them. Conference USA, there's only 2 of them. Liberty and Western Kentucky. And that is where our focus is going to be. Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State, Sam Houston remain in Conference USA's projected top 4. But the projected win totals are pretty telling. From 107 Sam Houston to 123 UTEP, 6 teams are projected to win between 4.8 and 5.8 games. Whoever wins their close games within this batch will enjoy a pretty nice season. This is the projection win totals for Conference USA. Within the conference, Liberty's at top, Western Kentucky number 2, and then there is a drop off, Jacksonville State, Sam Houston, and Louisiana Tech. Again, all the Bill Connelly metrics shoot out the same stuff. Liberty and Western Kentucky. Liberty and Western Kentucky are Conference USA's most proven entities at the moment. Liberty has won at least 8 games from 6 straight seasons, while Western Kentucky has reached 4 Conference USA championship games, winning 2 since joining the league in 2014. Between them, the Flames and the Hilltoppers start out with nearly 50% chance of winning the conference. But every other eligible team has at least a 4%, and last year's champ, Jacksonville State, started out at just 7%. We're not too far away from a chaotic race. Liberty Flames head coach Jamie Chadwell. Now, they underperformed last year greatly. You remember 2 years ago, they were 13-1. They had Caden Salter, who went into the portal, but then got out of the portal and led Liberty last year. Now he went back in the portal, and he's no longer at Liberty. Quinton Cooley, the great running back. Now he's not there any longer. So they had a lot of things going for them last year, but they underperformed greatly. Salter missing his big-time receiver, LSU transfer C.J. Daniels, went from averaging 16.3 yards to completion to 12.8. That is quite the drop-off. Chadwell's offensive track record remains strong. In his past 5 seasons as Coastal Carolina and Liberty, he's a combined 50-12. But last year's number 60th offensive SP Plus ranking was the worst for a Chadwell team since 2019. He and offensive coordinator Willie Korn have questions to answer in that regard. Ethan Vasco, the quarterback who signed originally with Coastal Carolina, is transferring, and now he's going to be the big-time, hopefully the big-time quarterback of the Liberty Flames. In both experience and upside, this is the most proven roster in Conference USA. But we said the same thing last year. The Flames bear a bit more burden of proof this time around. And the second team, Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, Tyson Helton, who had some interviews. He had a shot to become Purdue's new head coach, but it did not work out. 7th year, 48-32 overall, 25 projection, 85th in SP, 102 on offense, 68 on defense. Tyson Helton and Western Kentucky have won 8 or 9 games for 4 straight seasons with a stellar average SP ranking of 66.5. Now, of course, it seems like every year Tyson Helton is replacing his offensive coordinator or his defensive coordinator or both. And that is the story. If you read Bill Conley's article, again, there's a whole lot of changes going on. Helton is dealing with his most upheaval yet. He'll be breaking in his 4th offensive coordinator in 5 years. 4th offensive coordinator in 5 years, Rick Bowie. Meanwhile, according to the numbers at 247 Sports, 37 players have transferred out, while 43 have transferred in. That's half a roster. Only 2 starters remain from last year's lineup. 2! But Helton brought in 4 starters from other FBS defenses. And that quarterback, Maverick McIver from Abilene Christian, he's pretty good. He can throw the rock. Go look at his tape. He can throw the rock. So that is that could be a star player that could lead Conference USA Championship for Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. So again, if you read the whole article at Bill Conley, we did not do that here. We did not read the whole article from Mid-American Conference. But man, it looks like it's Liberty versus Western Kentucky. Unless we get a surprise, we got one last year with Jacksonville State. Jamie Chadwell, I do not think Liberty is going to underperform 2 years in a row. I don't think that is going to happen. So Liberty, Western Kentucky, let me know who you think is going to be Conference USA champion. Does any of those teams in Conference USA, do they have a chance to be the G5 representative into the college football playoffs in 2025? Let me know. Let me know what you're thinking. Okay. So, again, we're going to go through this, and then we're going to open it up to the phone calls. Whole bunch of reporting coming out. Whole bunch of reporting. This came from Sports Business Journal. based upon what Brett Yormark said, certainly we went through the exercise as we should, doing our due diligence, and it was very appropriate, Yormark said. At this point in time, we're putting it on pause. We understand what's out there, the capital markets. Our model was, though, very different than a cash influx. They were looking at other things along with the cash. We think one of them had to do with getting a relationship built with a private equity, private capital, with a streaming company. Our model was, though, very different than a cash influx. It was more of a bespoke model, custom tailored to the potential needs of the conference, getting some strategic expertise in areas to grow the conference, but at the same time, potentially having a capital resource. Now let's look at, back to this article, Front Office Sports. I want us to read the words, exact words that Brett Yormark said in this interview. Where does the Big 12 stand in selling a stake of the conference to private equity? We've explored all that. We did it probably for a better part of the year. We're not ready to go in that direction, but we know what the options are out there. We've been educated at the highest levels. Why aren't you ready to take that step? The board's not ready right now. Now, Yormark did not say, I'm not ready right now. He said the board's not ready right now. The board makes up the presidents. The leader of the board right now is the Baylor's chancellor. And there's probably lots of reasons for that. There are so many different things going on right now. Is one of them the discussions with the ACC with Smash Capital? Is that one of them? Is that why the pause on a conference level private equity deal? Because you're looking at a mini Super League deal? We know what's going on in that world. We hired a bank to consult and give us direction. Show us what the optionality is out there. One of the options, doing a bigger deal with the ACC and Smash Capital. Is that one of the options you're truly exploring now? And we're just not ready to jump in just yet. So it's really not a no here. Really not a no. Was there good value available if you were ready to take that step? There's different ways to look at it. We were exploring a potential partnership that brings strategic expertise to grow the business of the Big 12, while also having someone that could be a capital resource. So the model we were looking for and exploring, custom tailored to the conference, and we'll see what happens in the future. Okay, I just wanted to go through that one more time so everybody could see what Brett Yormark said. Now, this is what Ross Dellinger reported. Let me check on something real quick here. Hold on, everybody. Give me a moment. We are going to get to your phone calls. I want to hear what you guys think. Door number 1, door number 2, or is there a door number 3 that they are attempting to do? And I don't know what that door number 3 is, to be honest with you. Nobody has presented a door number 3 to me. Cloak and Dagger, Cloak and Dagger with some schools in the Big 12, talking with some schools in the ACC, talking to Smash Capital, or to form what I would call power conference number 3 with a bullet, or is this a super league type of plan, a mini super league? Now, Dante's Inferno Purgatory, says Cloak and Gregor. John Dries is number 2, I suppose. Door number 3, a financial merger of the two conferences. I guess that would be door number 3. Because I'm not thinking merger, I'm thinking a super league, but they both remain their own entity, but under like a super league umbrella. A full merger? Ryan Thomas thinks that Power Conference 3 is coming, so he's looking at door number 2. Let's go and take a look here. We're going to read this very carefully, and then I'm going to take your phone calls. The divide among the 4 power leagues is more evident than ever. The divide among the 4 power leagues. So again, it's just, we're going to look at every word here, but there are some words and phrases, in my opinion, let me know if I'm looking at this wrong, there are some words and phrases that Ross Dellinger uses that makes me think door number 1, mini super league, or door number 2, radical Cloak and Dagger going on internally in both conferences. Again, he starts by saying the divide among the 4 power leagues is more evident than ever. The latest example was a recent clandestine call that several ACC and Big 12 presidents and high-ranking athletic administrators held with leaders of a private equity-backed super league. The call earlier this month was done without the involvement of the ACC and Big 12 commissioners, and was the second such Big 12 ACC joint meeting since December, with those from Smash Capital, a venture capital firm proposing a super league model that features $9 billion promise of cash infusion to college sports. So there's a couple things here. One, if you're looking at this as an attempt for the ACC and the Big 12 to do a mini super league with Smash Capital providing the capital and whatever, the relationships, the new sponsorships, whatever all this is, there is some stuff in here that would lead you in that direction, in my opinion. Number 1, high-ranking athletic administrators. Why is Ross Dellinger using that term? If it was athletic directors, if he would have used that term, then it's more of the individual schools going to this clandestine meeting by invitation, by relationship in their meeting. But when you say high-ranking athletic administrators, that could mean, it's too vague for us to really know, but that could mean possibly some conference administrators from the Big 12 and the ACC. But then again, I think Ross Dellinger would have kind of pointed to that direction. But here's the big one. He uses the phrase Big 12 ACC joint meeting. This is the second such Big 12 ACC joint meeting. That would tend, some people that chatter behind the curtain believe that that means this is a true ACC Big 12 making sure, let's check all the boxes here. Maybe we can do this with Smash Capital. Maybe we can set up our own Super League. We're not breaking away from the Big Ten and the SEC, but we're creating basically our own Super League. We can do our own divisions. We can set up whatever we want to set up. We can agree with each other. We have the power when it comes to autonomy, governance, more power together than apart. So maybe this is what it is. A potential looking at, once again, Super League between the Big 12 and the ACC. Now, again, I'm not going to be able to, I don't know, I don't have an answer why, if that is the case, why wasn't the Big 12 and ACC commissioner there? Right? Big 12, ACC, and the Big 12 commissioner was not at this meeting. Why is that? And then the next question I don't have an answer to is, why weren't all the ACC and the Big 12 school presidents at this meeting? And then the next, and then really the most, I always get back to this when I read this. What really perplexes me about this paragraph is that word clandestine. I've talked to really smart, I've talked to Moen about this. He was in the chat room for a moment. RFR Max says, I think the meeting was to discuss not going with capital plan at this time. So you would have a meeting to tell that we're not going with Smash Capital? Possibly. That could be, I guess. I don't know why you would have to have all these presidents. I don't. Possibly. But again, the word here is clandestine. The latest example was a recent clandestine call. In secret, a call that would be secretive to certain people. Let's do this call. Clandestine, that word was chosen by Brett Yormark. I got a feeling that word was used, whoever leaked this, to Brett Yormark. And we'll get to the leaking part next, before we get to your live calls. Why use the word clandestine? To keep this secret to somebody. Would this be leaked? Would this be leaked to Ross Dellinger? Let me take a step back. Would there be such a secretive call to make sure that the Big Ten and the SEC do not get wind of this? Would they? It doesn't. There's something about it that doesn't. It doesn't work for me. If this is about a Super League, there's parts of this that does. There's parts of it that doesn't. When someone leaks the word clandestine, that is like you're You are trying to keep it from your neighbor, from your conference member, your mate. Clandestine call in the middle of the night. Several schools. The commissioners weren't there. So that part of it, to me, goes to door number 2, the Cloak and Dagger, the internal Cloak and Dagger that might be going on within the ACC and the Big 12. Door number 1, mini Super League. Door number 2, Cloak and Dagger. And there's enough here that points in either direction, and I don't think both of them are going on at the same time. So let me know what you're thinking out there. Put it down in the chat. Put it down, super chat. Give me a phone call. Door number 1 or door number 2? Door number 1 or door number 2? Did this happen without Yormark and Phillips not knowing about it? Or did they know about it? But again, maybe it's a Super League, and of course you can't have 2 commissioners, so they're leaving them out. Or is this an invitation only? Was this the Magnificent Seven? Magnificent Seven getting together once again and saying to themselves, well, we got to create something here. We got to do something here. Let's reach over the aisle to some of the Big 12 schools, some of those, maybe those AAU schools, if North Carolina, Virginia are running this, or maybe Florida State. And who leaked it, by the way? Who leaked it? Who told Ross Dellinger this? Who gains by this information coming out? That I do not know. I mean, that is wild. Think about that one. Who leaked this to Ross Dellinger? Go through the options in your head. Put it in the chat. Give me a call. Who leaked this? Was it one of the... Okay, if it is a Super League type of deal, a potential Super League building up, was it one of the schools that wasn't quite, boy, I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. I don't want to be locked down here in a Super League. Could have been Florida State. Could Florida State have leaked this? And basically putting out a message of, hey, Big Ten and SEC, I'm about to get rolled up in the Super League. Or I'm about to get rolled up in this Power 3 conference. A merger of the top brands of the ACC and the Big 12, whatever schools they are. Who leaked this to Ross Dellinger? Or did Utah leak it, like Tumasta said? Okay, we are going to get to your very kind super chats. Then we're going to get to your phone calls. Again, I appreciate everybody joining us here at Peek Around the Corner. Door number 1 or door number 2. I will explain those 2 doors again because people have just joined us here. Ricky Tungate, holy smokes. Thank you for your incredible generosity. Greg, next week, everything will be different. I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by that, Mr. Hoosier. You talking about the House NCAA? Is it going to be approved, denied, delayed? Are you talking about something other, some other big story going on? Ricky Tungate, appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much for your incredible kindness, helping us keep the lights on with all that support. Thank you, my man. Appreciate it, Mr. Tungate. Antoine Johnson, the call was secret because not all the Big 12 and ACC teams are going to be involved in this new venture. It has nothing to do with the SEC of the Big 10. Okay? There are people that believe that is the leading option to this drama. There are people that agree with you, Antoine Johnson. The clandestine call was to keep it a secret among those that were invited to the second call with Smash Capital. It wasn't to keep it a secret from the Big Ten and the SEC. Who cares if they know? Really? That is kind of what leads us to door number 2. Very interesting. Thank you, Antoine Johnson, for being a member for 10 months. And again, the chatter behind the curtain today is not about the college football playoffs. It's about this. I can tell you that because when Brett Yormark came out last night, this morning I got a call. Then I made a bunch of calls. I got some calls back. This is what everyone's thinking about. The Ross Dellinger report that there was a clandestine call, several ACC, several Big 12 schools met for the second time. The second time was earlier this month with Smash Capital. That report came out on May 26th. On May 29th, the report came out that Brett Yormark and the Big 12, the board of directors at the Big 12 said, nah, we're positive. It's because they're working out not a conference level deal, but a Super League deal with the ACC and Smash Capital? Or is there something else going on in which the Magnificent Seven are talking to a few of those Big 12 schools, and they're thinking about something different? And Smash Capital will grease the skids for that new formation, that new power conference. Again, let me know. Those are the two doors. Those are the two doors. Thank you so much, Antoine Johnson. You are knighted. You are knighted. Cloak and Dagger, Mr. Sun Devil, thank you so very much. Ryan Thomas, thank you for the super chat. There's something happening here. What it is isn't exactly clear. Something like that. There's a man standing over there with a gun in his hand. Something like that. Been a long time, a lot of beers ago that I sang that song. Thank you, Ryan Thomas, for the super chat. Appreciate it. There is something happening here. We don't know what it is. Opie. If FSU, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, Virginia, and Notre Dame aren't in it, why would you do it? Because I cannot see any of these schools not leaving when the offer is extended. Let me see if I got this right here. Which door are you talking about, Opie? Door number 1 or door number 2? I think you're talking about forming a new Power 3 conference, correct, Opie? And if this is what it's about, and I'm not saying it is, I don't know, but if that's what it's about, it's not happening. It ain't happening without Florida State and Clemson. For sure. And it probably isn't going to be happening without Miami, North Carolina, Virginia. Whatever we think about North Carolina, they do have they don't really want. There's a lot of political entanglement with North Carolina. So maybe they're still looking. They've always been provincial. They've always been like, if there's an option out there that keeps most of their games regional, that keeps the North Carolina State close to them, maybe Duke would be involved. Maybe they would be the 8th school of the eight ACC schools in this new Power 3 conference. But Opie, yeah, I agree. Look, if those schools are not in it, I think those are the schools that are leading this. If anything is being led here, remember, we brought it up. Other people have reported it. North Carolina, Bubba Cunningham, he believes in this smash. He believes in this capital coming on in. He wants to reform what he's got in front of him. He sponsored one of the Super Leagues formations. The idea of it, the concept of it. So either the Super League or the formation of a smaller Power 3 conference with some in the ACC and some in the Big 12. Either way, the schools that you listed, Opie, have to be leading this. They've got to be leading this, in my opinion. So I agree with you, Opie. Because I cannot see any of these schools not leaving when the offer is extended. Again, I don't know if the offer, you're talking about the offer from the Big Ten and the SEC. I agree. Although North Carolina has issues with politically, and maybe Florida State and Clemson are not, maybe they would have to be an exit hatch, right? If you're going to form this Power 3, I don't know. Great questions, Opie. Great question. But that clandestine call had to do with door 1 or door number 2, because I can't think of a third option unless you think merger of the two conferences. Thank you for the super chat, Opie. Appreciate your all your support once again. Bill G. 5 gifted memberships. Holy smokes. Kerry Gold Nose, Anthony Zappin, the Devil Frog, Kevin White, and Dallas Marquez. All 5 of you have been knighted. Cloak and Dagger. Officially Cloak and Dagger. All of you can go to our library and watch all the episodes. All of them are open to you, including early peak Cloak and Dagger members only episodes. Go check them out. And when you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Bill G. Bill G, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for all your support. All the gifted memberships that you have put out there in the last year and a half, 2 years. Thank you, Bill G. Thank you so very much. And then, of course, Notre Dame. How does this affect Notre Dame? If there's a Power 3 conference created, or if there is this Super League created with all the teams in the ACC and the Big 12. Smash Capital is about a financial merger, not conference merger. It keeps Notre Dame to stay independent forever. Relegation. Could relegation be a part of this? Remember, I know that sounds crazy. I'm not for any of that. But remember, Radakovich, Miami athletic director, he just came out in public and said, maybe we need 2 divisions. Brand division, non-brand division, to make sure that we're playing each other more often. The big brands, so we can make more money, so we can keep up with the Big Ten and the SEC. Could they brought up the word, there are ACC people who brought up the concept of relegation. What if that is a part of this? Again, the divide among the 4 power leagues is more evident than ever. And then Ross Dellinger lowers the boom. So this is about dividing the separation between the Big Ten and the SEC financially with the Big 12 and the ACC. And the latest example was a recent clandestine call. The latest example of trying to keep up with the big 10 and the SEC. This recent clandestine call, the call earlier this month, no involvement with the commissioners. Smash Capital, who was the one that was proposing a Super League. So there's enough here that points in the direction of these two conferences thinking about creating their own Super League to combat the Big Ten and the SEC. And I think there's enough here to go to that crazy door number 2, the option, where there might be some cloak and dagger going on within the Big 12 and the ACC. Let me know. Let me know what you guys think here. We are going to open up the phone lines. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. It is 5:13 Central Time.
From
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. What do you think, sir?
You know, Greg, I think the simplest explanation is this. A lot of stuff is uncertain right now. We still don't know whether or not, we don't know who exactly. Well, we do know the SEC wants Virginia and North Carolina. We do know that. That is for sure. And we do know that the Big Ten is interested in Miami, possibly. But, as far as Clemson and FSU, nothing's set in stone. I mean, we think, it makes sense to us. But right now, I think everyone's just exploring all options. I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily something that's going to happen.
No.
And it may all change. It may all change based on what moves the SEC makes.
But does this discussion, does this exploring discussion with Smash Capital, does it exclude anybody in the ACC and the Big 12? Did it keep anybody out, or was it involving with everybody? That is what people are trying to find out. Was this exclusionary or inclusionary?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is there may be some that don't feel they can afford it or don't want to go down that road. There may be some that couldn't make it. So I don't know. This kind of reminds me of two different instances in the 90s. If you... The original Mountain West, if you're familiar how that got started, Greg,
Mm-hmm.
It was the WAC had just had their spring meetings with presidents, and 8 of them gathered in the Denver airport and said, "We're fed up with this. We're going to go form our own conference," and that's how the Mountain West came about. And that's one similar scenario here. Another possibility is, it kind of reminds you also from 1994, when basically the Big 8 and the and 4 SWAC schools basically said, okay, we're going to go form the Big 12. Could this be similar, where you have top schools from both conferences, or basically all the Big 8, and taking what they could of the SWAC and putting together an entirely new conference? So a situation here. I think that's all possible. And there may be some schools that possibly know that they have bright. I mean, it's possible that maybe North Carolina knows we don't need to do this because we know the SEC or the Big Ten's knocking on our door. So why do we need to be part of this? And maybe UVA feels the same way. I don't know, but this probably seems to me it's more like Florida State Clemson driven, because their ultimate goal is they're trying to get the value they deserve, Greg. And so it's either, we're going to force the SEC's hand to take us along for value, but if not, we got to still make our own rain. And, I think that, I think it might be Clemson and FSU driven, because that just makes sense, because at the end of the day, we know for certain that they want to get compensated for the brand value they have. And maybe they're trying to explore that. Who knows? And that circle of who they include might expand, it might contract. It just all depends. But, I don't. It just kind of strikes me as something that's interesting, because, if something like this is going to happen, wouldn't they want to trigger this before the governance comes into play? Before if they're gonna leave others behind, there's no guarantee that they would have any governance powers. So it seems to me like one of the entities, either the ACC or the Big 12, would have to survive legally for that to work. A brand new entity, I don't know. You'd almost, in a way, maybe a merger does make sense, and those that want to leave are free to leave. And maybe some do. I don't know. It's curious. I would think that I don't think there's a definite plan, but I think everybody's exploring their options, and those options might change. But if I had to be a betting man, I think this is mainly driven by Clemson, Notre Dame, and FSU, and they're all trying to ensure the value that they can get, because there's no guarantee an SEC invites coming for FSU and Clemson. It logically would make sense. Logically, it would make sense that maybe the Big Ten would be interested, but nobody knows for certain. But what everyone has to be doing is they have to be doing everything right now to have their plan B in place, or at least have options to get the value to stay competitive with the top brands of the Big Ten and the SEC. And that's what I think is probably what's going on here. But those are just my thoughts.
All right, buddy.
I could be off my rocker, Greg. I've been off my rocker a lot.
Yep.
So, but we'll see. But and remember, Greg, if you have to eat a cheeseburger, you need to go to at least a decent restaurant where you can get a good, not a fast food. I'm talking like a real burger, like a good burger joint, so you can get a good, thick burger with real cheese on it. None of this American cheese crap. Either cheddar or pepper jack.
Okay.
But, if you're going to do that, Greg, it has to be a real burger. Or you can make it. Or the little general can make you a cheeseburger and put your favorite cheese on there. But it's got to be a real cheese. So,
all righty, sir.
No cheese made from badger milk. Anyway, take care.
Appreciate it.
Good day.
I think what we're gonna do, if it doesn't end up 4-4-2-2-1-3, and then I gotta eat a cheeseburger, I think we're gonna start a live show. I think then we're gonna order a DoorDash live, and then it's gonna come, and the little general is gonna present it to me. I think that's how we're gonna do it. Hopefully, we don't have to do it.
Call from
Rick?
Rick, the floor is yours. What do you think? Door number 1 or door number 2?
Mercy. I don't want to choose.
I don't have a choice either. I have no idea. But something, there's an attempt of something.
I just want that friggin' plane to land.
Yeah.
Make that plane land.
Yeah.
It's running out of gas.
Yeah. Well, if it goes 5 plus 11, a lot of those plans are just heading straight into a mountain. I don't know.
Judge Wilkins is yelling Mayday.
And a bunch of cash is flying out of the airplane that the Big Ten and the SEC are not going to receive if it's 5 plus 11. Interesting times. What do you think, sir?
Well, I was looking at Opie's super chat. This looks like if he's right, this is a hostile takeover.
Like how, who, what are we talking about here?
Well, what did he post about?
If Florida
Those
State, Clemson, and Miami, North Carolina, Virginia, Notre Dame aren't in it, why would you do it? Well, they're definitely in it if this happens. It's either
Correct.
everyone. So I guess what I'm asking is was this clandestine call with Smash Capital? Is this inclusionary with everybody in the ACC and the Big 12 knowing about it and they're looking at it, possible Super League type of thing? Or is it door number 2 where there were schools that did not know about it because there's communication? The Magnificent 7 has grown to a Magnificent 14 and there's cross-pollination going on between the two conferences. That is the question.
Well, I'm leaning toward the cross-pollination of the two and hostile takeover by both conferences to merge, whoever their players are.
Leaving some schools out.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. And I think this Cody Campbell guy might be the straw that stirs the drink, to use a flugerism.
Well, I don't know because I don't think Cody Campbell would be involved with anything that would cut some schools out of the Big 12. Maybe I'm being naive, but the way he talked, everybody coming, we got to get everybody on board. We got to get all, I don't think he would be for an effort that would cut some people out. I also don't know about Smash Capital. I mean, Smash Capital was the one that was willing to put in $9 billion or more for this huge Super League that a lot of these Big 12 schools and ACC schools were in favor of doing. They're true believers in that. So, I don't know. I mean, there's so many parts of this that points one way, and then there's other parts of it that point the other way. Either it's everybody's included in this, or it's not. It's Cloak and Dagger. There are going to be people left out if it comes to fruition. We're just talking about the attempt here. We're not talking about the result. Yeah. So
right. No,
I don't know.
I see the Cloak and Dagger. Remember when I called last week and mentioned the athletic director from Baylor and the athletic director from Colorado getting together with another athletic director to compose this document that was going to unify the conference without the commissioner and the presidents knowing it, and how suspicious I thought that was?
Yeah.
Well, this is right along the same line.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here?
I don't know.
Who's running the show?
I don't know what's going on. This is college football's peek around the corner, and I'm unable to give you the peek around the corner. The only peek I'm giving you all.
Why isn't Dellinger or one of those people who were at the Yormark press conference asking him this?
I don't know. There are people scrambling to try to figure out this story, though. But Ross Dellinger ain't going to give it up because, he said what he could say. He can't say another thing more. I mean, that's how it is. Someone leaked it to him. Who leaked it to him? I don't know who leaked it to him. It probably has to do with whatever the story is. I mean, if but this is what the chatter behind the curtain people are talking about today. Not about any other.
Well,
this is it.
I just want to know if Phillips and Yormark are okay with these people doing this stuff without their knowledge. Are you okay with that?
Well,
no
we don't know. We don't know if it happened without their knowledge. We know it happened without them, but they could have known about it.
Oh, now you need more Cloak and Dagger.
I mean, that's, it happened without them. We don't know for sure. The exact words were, the call earlier this month was had without the involvement of the ACC and Big 12 commissioners. Without the involvement. It did not say without the it didn't say that the commissioners did not have knowledge of it, but without the involvement. But again, it's vague. It's like, well,
that's almost like having your meetings without having the commissioners meeting about a team leaving a conference. Third party. Mm-hmm. They're playing a third party role.
Yep.
With a wink and a nod because the commissioner doesn't know. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Okay, you got calls coming.
Yep, you got it. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane. The floor is yours. By the way, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I've already cut you off. There's an article here by Andrew Boardwine from Saturday Blitz. Happened 2 days ago, where he says why the ACC and the Big 12 need to consider a merger. I will put that link in the description box after the show so you can go read it, or you can just go to Saturday Blitz. But it talks about how maybe the ACC and the Big 12 need to do something like this. If that's what these discussions are all about, we do not know. Go ahead, Rock and Rant. The floor is yours.
Let's take a pin in that when I come back to it, and then let's take a pin on door 1 and 2. I'm going to throw out an unlikely and admittedly less exciting alternate idea.
Got it.
Which
door number 3 you're putting out there.
It's like door number 3 of just putting two of these together. So you're Smash Capital. You've been talking to all these teams and leagues about private equity and what you could do for them at a big level, right?
Yeah.
$9 billion Super League, conference level, right? Maybe they're talking to Big 12 before Yormark said we're at least not doing it now. However, that means. You've all become like friendly. So if I can't do a $9 billion deal with you, what deal can I do with you so that when you decide you're ready to do a $9 billion deal, like it's a Big 10 and the SEC coming down the road, you already know me. You're already friends. You already trust me. I have my foot in the door for whenever that next big negotiation window happens. And if you know right now that there are people in the ACC and people in the Big 12 that can't or don't or won't do private equity, and you know that each team could do private equity on their own, but there is not necessarily like the multiplier effect, because if I'm Coke, I have to do a deal with Florida State. I can't do a deal with like 9 teams or 13 teams. What if they're proposing that, hey, everybody in the Big 12 and ACC that's interested, we can't do the same deal if we got naming rights for the Big 12. But if I get 10 of you together, I can make it so that collectively you make more than I could just do even yes with you, Florida State, or even yes with you, Colorado.
Now, what about the word clandestine, though?
I mean, it could be clandestine because they're just like, hey, these other guys are holding us back, but I have the rights to sell my own thing and align myself with a strategic partnership that doesn't conflict with my conference, and my conference doesn't have a collective deal. I'm not a big, they didn't have the commissioners, but they're talking about a super league, right? Because I don't believe that's what would be happening as a thing. And I don't think a super league of these two conferences makes sense for a Florida State Clemson, because you're still better off actually doing a smaller league out of the 33, 32.
Okay, so you're a door number 2 type of guy. You're a door number 2.
I don't know what. It's the Super League of the Big 10, of the Big 12 and ACC, as great as those schools absolutely are, is not making the Big 10 or SEC sweat, because at the end of the day, if you roll them all up, you still only have theoretically rumor milled 6 to 8, maybe 10 ultimately that have a home in either of those two in whatever scenario, right? So I don't think they care. Ultimately, there's no threat. the only way that a combined league helps is if you get rid of you make the floor go higher, right? And that doesn't mean involving 33 teams, of which some of their value doesn't matter because they dropped 300,000. Purely from the TV ratings perspective, I don't mean that they're not awesome schools. I don't mean that they're not winning on the field. It doesn't do anything to Florida State, Miami, Clemson, Colorado. Those deals, like, you're better off. You need enough teams to survive in a conference, right? But you don't need like one more after that because you don't have a whole lot of media value, monetization, brand equality in here, even though there's amazing schools up and down and somebody could always ascend down the road, right? Mm-hmm. And then you could always deal with that situation. So I don't believe it's the former of let's just do a Super League because financially it's all about money. I know it shouldn't be all about money. Mm-hmm. That's not the smartest play for the higher earning media brand on paper rumor mill kind of thing. Like in my opinion, you'd be better off with 12 than you would be with 33 or 32 in terms of like what your likely payout would be, unless you have a dramatically crazier version of the new ACC revenue sharing. And in that case, you're still kind of screwed unless you then say, let's just play the biggest brand. If it goes to the 5 and 11, you're going to have strength of schedule issues if you're not like guaranteed playing the stronger teams who are investing in football every year. So I don't think it's the first. I don't even know if it's like, hey, let's Florida State and Clemson. I'm just using them because somebody else did them. Let's make this happen because that way it'll make sure the Big Ten and SEC know we're serious and we're available. Like they already know that. They don't need this meeting to do that. The back channel has been open for like years. The official thing has been open since at least February. They don't need this meeting to tell the Big Ten and SEC, like, hey, come look at us. And then in terms of the leak, like Ross Dellinger's a real reporter, right? So words matter to him. So the word several, if he's using it correctly, means that there was at least 3 of the ACC and at least 3 of the Big 12 if he's using several of either. If it's just several combined, then it's, that only means 3 as a minimum. It could be any other number. Usually several means 3, 2, 5 as like a random dictionary version. So, I don't think any of those people, unless they're completely stupid, and by the way, I think we've completely witnessed a lot of stupidity in upper management of college football, including this week. There's no way that any of those numbers of people get together in a room or a call and don't assume it will get leaked at this point, right? Like, no one can be shocked that anything leaks from a meeting. Whenever you have more than 2 people in a room, you can assume that somebody else did it and everybody else will point the finger at this kind of level. So, I don't know. I'm just throwing out another scenario. I don't think it's likely, but like if you have people hot for your deal, if you can't sell them a Ferrari, but you still have a car dealership, you can sell them a Grand Cherokee, you still probably want to sell them a Grand Cherokee in case they become rich and they want to buy a Ferrari later. I don't know. What do you think? Am I eating too many cheeseburgers in a celebration of your potential need to eat one?
I have no idea. I really don't. I think
neither do I. This is just like
I know, but you what you just said made a lot of sense. But in my mind, it's the more radical version. It's the more radical option. I mean, this is truly Cloak. This would be woo. This would be unbelievable.
It could be Cloak and Dagger, but like think of everything we've seen. It could also just be Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. But then, I'm going to go to the next caller, Rock and Rant. I know we got other callers, but
go right ahead.
I want you to hear what I got to say next, okay? Because then it's going to get really controversial, okay? And then you can call back if you want.
All right, no worries.
Appreciate it, sir.
Take care.
Yeah. So obviously I don't know what this is. I started off the show with it. Obviously the people, everyone that I talked to don't know what this is, but there are people, serious people scrambling to figure out what this is. Door number 1, door number 2, or a door that we haven't figured out yet. I have been working under the. I have been thinking. In my discussions, no one has really stopped me and said, Greg, why do you think it's happening that way? I don't think it's happening that way. So nobody has really stopped me. But Rock and Rant brought up something, and Moen brought it up to me earlier today. And if it is door number 2, and again, a lot of people are saying a lot of radical stuff here. I mean, look what Miami athletic director said about, well, maybe we need to split 2 divisions and have big brand 1 and not. I mean, there is, it's already gotten crazy in the ACC. When we're talking about in the Super League, there's a few things that lead me to the Super League because joint, the word that said ACC Big 12 joint meeting, what was the exact words? Big 12 ACC joint meeting, the second one. I don't know. That wordage kind of makes me think that this was endorsed by Big 12 and ACC, but maybe not. And the other was Smash Capital. Yeah, they're not going to spend $9 billion on this, but maybe they spend, I don't know, $3 billion on it. I don't know. I have no idea. But Smash Capital was a Super League type of, they wanted a Super League investment. They wanted a lot of content. They wanted a lot of universities. But again, Rock and Rant is like, he's correct. There's something that Rock and Rant is alluding to. And Moen basically told me, I mean, this isn't, whatever this is, the Super League or this Power 3, the new Power 3, the third Power Conference. It really isn't going to happen without Florida State, Clemson in Miami, and a couple in North Carolina. And so and Florida State and Clemson are not going to do it unless it really gets them a lot closer to the Big Ten, the SEC, with money and exposure and just being in the best spot they can be in without having to go if they don't get an invitation to the Power 2. So if you're going down that road, and I think we kind of should be, I don't know if Florida State and Clemson are going to have any interest in like bigger. They probably want this thing as small as it can be. But yet, several Big 12 schools were invited, or if we're looking at door number 2 right now, and that's what we're doing, we're looking at door number 2. Several ACC and Big 12 school presidents and high-ranking athletic administrators, which I don't know what that means. I mean, athletic administrators, sometimes, maybe there's lawyers involved in that meeting. So if you're, let me, I know I'm going all over the place, but as I have been talking about this all day long, my first thought was, the Magnificent Seven are talking again, like they've been doing, like it was reported a couple spring meetings ago. And let's start there. What would this new third power conference be? I was thinking the 7 magnificent schools, and then maybe a couple more ACC schools like a Duke, like a Louisville. And then the Big 12 would be totally up for grabs. But then again, it's about, like Rock and Rand alluded to, it's like, it's got it, whatever this is, it's got to be much better than what they, it can't be too big. You know, this would be like if the Big Ten broke up and the Big Ten schools, the top ones, wanted to form their own conference, because let's say they're falling behind the SEC in 15 years from now. So the top 6 schools, top brands in the Big Ten, they break away. You got Michigan, you got Ohio State, you got Penn State, those 3 big ones, and Oregon and USC, and I don't care who you got, Washington, let's say. And you got 6 schools. Well, they're probably going to have to take a couple other, maybe possibly, or they might take a couple from elsewhere, and that they're not going to break away to join something that's bigger. That decently big. They're going to like keep it pretty small. The Buckeyes, Michigan, Penn State, if they're going to break away from members that they've known for over 100 years, they're going to keep it small. I'm just bringing that as an example. If this is door number 2, if this is truly door number 2, and it doesn't have to do with a potential attempt at a Super League between the 2 conferences, then the participants in the Big 12 is probably a pretty low number. You know, probably 3 or 4 or 5 maybe. And in the ACC, maybe it's not all the magnificent 7. Maybe it is. Maybe it's 7, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 12 combined. But it probably isn't going to be 18 schools, 20 schools. I don't know. I'm just giving you my opinion on that. It's very highly controversial. It gets even more controversial when you talk about what would it look like. What schools would, again, it really is depending on who's running the ship here. Is it North Carolina running the ship? Is it Florida State running the ship? Are they running it together? If that is what's going on behind door number 2. Antoine Johnson thinks the third power conference needs to include Notre Dame. David Floyd says Texas Tech was not part of that meeting. I don't know who was in that meeting. I don't know who was not in that meeting. Why do you think that Texas Tech was not part of that meeting, David Floyd? Let me know in the chat room, or give me a phone call. This new ACC conference would target Texas A&M. Wow. That is thinking outside the box. That's an interesting one, because I don't think Texas A&M would ever have interested in joining the Big Ten. Well, they did a little bit in 2010 when they looked at that. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but going forward, I don't think so. All right, phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Door number 1 or door number 2? What was Brett Yormark talking about here? A possible Super League between the ACC and the Big 12 under one umbrella? Or, and again, Rock and Rant alluded to it, if it is a Super League, if it is a Super League discussion where it's inclusionary with all the schools in the Big 12, all the schools in the ACC, why are you using the word clandestine? Does it really, why are you keeping a secret from the Big 10 and the SEC? I mean, there isn't really that need of secrecy. And the question is, if you believe in door number one, that it is Super League talk, who leaked this? Who wanted this out there? Or if you believe in door number two, a lot of cloak and dagger going on in between both conferences. Is it a school that was not invited and they found out? Did they leak this to Ross Dellinger?
Call from
Jose, fight on.
Jose, fight on. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it, sir. The floor is yours.
It's cloak and dagger season, go for Godfather. That's
Yes,
why
it
they
is.
got to do everything clandestine.
Yes, it
To
is.
make it more interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the clandestine aspect of it is, I think they just, if they don't want the commissioners involved, to me, that's a big red flag that it's Super League oriented. Now, how many teams, whether it's, a dozen, a couple dozen, or they're the full 33, 34 bringing in Memphis, I think that's what's up for debate. But if the commissioners are out of it, that's definitely Super League-ish, especially with Smash Capital being involved, because that's what they want. They want inventory, and that's where I think it would be.
But if it was Super League, and that you bring up good points, that's what Smash Capital wanted prior. If it was Super League-ish, then why wouldn't the commissioners be involved?
Because they get laid off. They're no longer needed.
I see.
Smash Capital would appoint whoever their new, Roger Goodell would be in that scenario.
So they would not be needed in these discussions. But Brett Yormark just signed a new extension by the board of directors at the Big 12. But then, in a Super League, they wouldn't necessarily lose their jobs because...
No, they can keep them around as advisory, or
I don't know.
Maybe one of them would get elevated or promoted to the commissioner position of a Roger Goodell.
I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, but it is very interesting. But how about that five-star number one tight end we just got, Mark Bowman, who is rumored to be the Brock Bowers 2.0 and a terrific replacement for Deuce Robinson, because Deuce Robinson was that hybrid 6'6", tight end receiver, and now Mark Bowman can follow in his footsteps and excel. But yeah, it's great times right now going on at USC with recruiting.
USC is on a roll. Where did Deuce Robinson go again?
Florida State.
Florida State. That's right. That is the pickup that Florida State had that I really loved.
Yeah, and that was a big gaping hole that he was going to leave. Yeah, we needed to fill. So we needed a big guy like that, like Deuce Robinson, tight end hybrid that can just out jump the secondary. But yeah, we're doing great, and that's all I had. Thank you, Go for Godfather, for the time.
You got it.
Fight on.
Fight on. Appreciate it, sir. Very interesting. Again, I want to thank everybody who joined us. Live show May 30th on a Friday. Getting ready for the weekend. If you're new to the channel or if you haven't done it yet, please hit the subscribe button. We talk college football almost every single day of the month, and we cover everything. We covered Conference USA today. We covered the Mid-American Conference a couple of days ago. We cover it all here at Peek Around the Corner. So please subscribe and smash the like button if you liked our content. We appreciate it so very much. I want to say thank you to the people who have donated to our program today. Help us keep the lights on. Expedition Greg, Helmer Henderson, Ricky Tungate, Mr. Hoosier, Sun Devil himself, Antoine Johnson, Ryan Thomas, Opie, and Bill G. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very humbled by all your support. Appreciate it. We've had quite the discussion here. The chatter behind the curtain today was not about the college football playoffs. That is going to be going on. The chatter today was after the breaking news of last night where the Big 12 is hitting the pause button. The pause button on private equity. Is it because of what happened in the earlier phone call this month, in the month of May, between several Big 12 schools, several ACC schools, and Smash Capital, who are a proponent of a Super League investment? Could there be a Super League talk, a bigger investment? Is that why the Big 12 have put it on the shelf for now at a conference level? Or is there something much more nefarious going on? Radical Cloak and Dagger going on with inside both conferences with Smash Capital. Both scenarios, in my opinion, both radical, long shot scenarios. There's an attempt to do something here. I mean, and it can't be just about education anymore. The Big 12 can have their own meetings with Smash Capital. The ACC can have their own meetings with Smash Capital. They've already had meetings with Smash Capital. No, it's something else. It's either something Super League-ish or it's something Cloak and Daggerish, but there is something going on. And I'm not convinced either way. And I'm not where nobody is saying either one is going to happen. No. But the attempt to push something forward, Super League-ish or a new third power conference being created, there's something happening here. So anyways, I appreciate it. We are going to keep following this. Keep your head on a swivel. Buckle up, brace for impact. We're all waiting. We're all waiting for Judge Wilkin, and I guess it's going into next week. My goodness. Everything in college football is on the knife's edge. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Until next time, PATC, everyone at PATC hopes and prays that all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.